He built pyramids, not from stone, not from gold, from human skulls. 17 million people died because of him. That's more than Hitler, more than Stalin, more than the Mongol invasions before him, and almost nobody remembers his name. His name was Timur. The world calls him Tamerlane. He started as a poor shepherd boy with a limp. By the time he died, his empire stretched from India to Turkey. This is the story of how a crippled shepherd became the most feared conqueror in history, and why the world chose to forget him. Timur was born in 1336 in what is now Uzbekistan. His family wasn't royal. They weren't rich. They were a small clan inside a bigger empire that was already falling apart. When he was young, he got hit in the leg with arrows. Some stories say he was stealing sheep. Others say he was wounded in battle. Either way, the wounds never healed right. He walked with a limp for the rest of his life. People started calling him Timur the Lame. In Persian, that became Timur-Ilang. Europeans heard that name and turned it into Tamerlane. The name was meant as an insult. He turned it into a brand. By his 20s, Timur was leading raids. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. He had two things going for him. First, he was smart. He didn't just charge into battle. He studied his enemies. Second, he was ruthless. If a city fought back, he didn't just defeat them. He erased them. He killed everyone inside. Then he made sure the next city heard about it. By 1370, he controlled most of Central Asia. He made the city of Samarkand his capital. He turned it into one of the richest cities in the world. But he wasn't done. He was just getting started. In 1387, a city called Isfahan rebelled against him. Big mistake. Timur came back with his army. The city fell within days. Then he gave an order that changed how the world saw him forever. He told his soldiers to bring him 70,000 heads. They piled them up outside the city walls, stacked into towers. Some accounts say there were 28 towers of skulls in total. This wasn't random violence. This was strategy. Word spread fast across the trade routes. Other cities heard what happened at Isfahan. Most of them surrendered without fighting. Terror, used correctly, was cheaper than war. Here's what made Tamerlane different. Genghis Khan, who came before him, killed for territory. He wanted land. He wanted tribute. Tamerlane killed for fear. He understood something modern dictators still use today. If your reputation is terrifying enough, your enemies defeat themselves before you arrive. But there was another side to him, a weird one. He loved scholars. He loved poets. He loved chess. He destroyed cities. Then he kidnapped the smart people from those cities and brought them back to Samarkand. He didn't want to rule a desert. He wanted to rule a paradise built on the bones of his enemies. In 1398, Tamerlane invaded India. The Sultan of Delhi had a strong army. He had war elephants, hundreds of them, massive beasts with iron plates and blades on their tusks. Tamerlane's soldiers had never fought elephants before. Some of them ran when they saw them. So Tamerlane came up with a plan. He loaded camels with hay and straw. When the elephants charged, he set the camels on fire and sent them running toward the elephant lines. The elephants panicked. They turned around and trampled their own army. Delhi fell that day. Tamerlane killed an estimated 100,000 prisoners after the battle. The city was so destroyed that it took 100 years to recover. By 1402, Tamerlane was almost 70 years old. Most men his age were dead. He should have been retired. Instead, he turned west. He defeated the Ottoman Empire in a single battle. He captured the Ottoman Sultan. According to legend, he kept him in a cage and used him as a footstool. Then he started planning his biggest campaign yet. He was going to invade China. The Ming dynasty had sent insulting messages to him for years. He was going to march his entire army across the Gobi Desert in the dead of winter. He set out in January 1405. He never made it. Tamerlane died of fever in February 1405 in a small town called Otrar, hundreds of miles from any battlefield. The man who couldn't be killed by armies was killed by a cold. His army turned around. The China invasion never happened. His body was carried back to Samarkand. He was buried in a tomb of green jade, one of the largest single pieces of jade ever cut. The tomb had a curse carved on it. Anyone who disturbed it, the curse said, would unleash a terror worse than Tamerlane himself. In 1941, Soviet scientists opened the tomb to study the bones. 2 days later, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. Here's the part nobody talks about. Tamerlane spent 35 years building the largest empire in the world. Within 100 years of his death, almost all of it was gone. Why? Because he built an empire of fear, not of systems. He never created stable government. He never built lasting institutions. He never trained successors. Everything he conquered was held together by one thing: terror of him personally. When he died, the terror died with him. His sons fought each other. His grandsons fought each other. His empire broke into pieces within 2 generations. This is the pattern. Every dictator who rules through fear builds an empire that dies the moment they do. So why don't we remember Tamerlane the way we remember Genghis Khan or Hitler or Stalin? 3 reasons. First, his empire didn't last. There were no descendants telling his story for centuries. The Mongols had the Yuan dynasty. The Romans had Christianity. Tamerlane had nobody to keep his name alive. Second, he killed mostly people who didn't speak European languages. Western historians wrote less about him because he didn't conquer the West. Third, his violence was so extreme it became unbelievable. Some historians thought the numbers were exaggerated. They weren't. We just couldn't process them. So he got buried, not in his jade tomb, in our history books. Tamerlane's story matters today for one reason. Every dictator who comes after him uses the same playbook. Build through fear. Strike harder than expected. Make examples out of anyone who resists. Hope your reputation does the work for you. It works. For one lifetime. Then it always collapses. Tamerlane built one of history's largest empires. He killed millions to do it, and within 100 years, most people couldn't remember his name. That's the real ending of every tyrant story, not the conquest, the forgetting. If you want more deep dives on the tyrant's history forgot, subscribe. Next video, 5 dictators whose empires didn't fall to armies. They fell because they ran out of money. See you in the next one.